It was supposed to be just another day at work for Trevor Noah, hosting. The Daily Show had become second nature to him over the years. With his quick wit and knack for finding humor in even the most serious topics, he had built a reputation as one of the sharpest minds in late-night television. That evening, however, something happened that would throw him completely off balance. Elon Musk was scheduled to appear on live TV that night. The billionaire tech mogul wasn't exactly known for being predictable. Whether it was launching rockets into space or tweeting cryptic messages that moved markets, Musk always kept people guessing. Trevor knew this interview could go either way. It might be insightful, funny, or maybe even awkward. But what unfolded was something no one expected. An explosive confrontation that left Trevor visibly upset and millions of viewers glued to their screens. As the show began, Trevor greeted Elon with his trademark charm. The audience cheered loudly, excited to see two larger-than-life personalities sharing the same stage. At first, everything seemed normal. Trevor asked about Musk's latest projects, space exploration, electric cars, and brain implants. Musk responded enthusiastically, painting vivid pictures of a future where humans lived on Mars and machines enhanced human capabilities. It was classic Musk, ambitious, eccentric, and slightly surreal. But then, Trevor made what he thought was a harmless joke. He teased Musk about how much power and influence he wielded, asking half-jokingly if it ever scared him. The room filled with laughter, but Musk didn't crack a smile. Instead, he leaned forward in his chair, his expression shifting from playful to intense. For a moment, there was silence. Then, without missing a beat, Musk fired back with a comment that sent shockwaves through the studio. "You know," Musk said, his voice calm but laced with accusation, "people like you, comedians who make jokes about serious issues, are part of the problem." The audience immediately quieted down, sensing that this wasn't going to end well. Trevor's face froze mid-smile, unsure whether to laugh it off or respond seriously. Before he could say anything, Musk continued, "You simplify things too much. You turn complex problems into punchlines, and that misleads people." Trevor tried to regain control of the situation. He attempted to lighten the mood with another quip, hoping to steer the conversation back to safer ground. But Musk wasn't having it. His tone grew sharper as he elaborated on his point. "Take your jokes about billionaires, for instance," he said, pointing directly at Trevor. "You act like it's all fun and games, but those jokes shape public opinion in dangerous ways." Every word hit like a hammer, leaving Trevor stunned. By now, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to applaud, gasp, or stay silent. Trevor's mind raced. He prided himself on staying composed under pressure, but this was different. This wasn't just criticism, it felt personal. As the segment dragged on, Trevor struggled to find his footing, trying to match Musk's intensity while keeping up appearances. But the damage was done. When the interview finally ended, Trevor quickly excused himself and disappeared backstage. Cameras followed him briefly before cutting away, capturing only glimpses of his frustration. Backstage, he paced back and forth, replaying the conversation in his head. What had started as a routine interview had spiraled into a full-blown attack. Friends and crew members tried to console him, reminding him that Musk was known for being unpredictable. But Trevor couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. How could someone he admired so much turn on him like that? That night, sleep eluded Trevor. He tossed and turned, replaying every moment of the encounter. By morning, he'd made up his mind. He wasn't going to let Musk's comments slide. This wasn't just about him, it was about standing up for the role of comedy and satire in society. And so when he walked onto the set of The Daily Show the next evening, there was a fire in his eyes that hadn't been there before. This sets the stage for the rest of the story, introducing the conflict and building intrigue. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the other parts. The next evening, Trevor Noah walked onto the set of The Daily Show with a determined look on his face. The audience erupted into applause, but this time, there was an undercurrent of anticipation. Everyone knew something big was coming. Instead of diving straight into his usual jokes, Trevor stood behind his desk, took a deep breath, and addressed the elephant in the room. "Let me start by saying this. he began, his tone calm but firm. Yesterday I had what can only be described as one of the most surreal moments of my career. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. I went into that interview thinking it would be fun, a chance to talk about space travel, electric cars, and maybe share a few laughs. What I didn't expect was to walk out feeling like I'd been blindsided. The audience listened intently, sensing that Trevor wasn't just delivering another monologue. This was personal. He recounted the events of the previous night, describing how Elon Musk had turned the tables midway through the conversation. He accused comedians, not just me but all of us, of oversimplifying serious issues and misleading people. Now I'll admit, satire isn't perfect. No form of communication is. But here's the thing. Satire exists because sometimes the truth hurts too much to say outright. Humor gives us a way to process it, to question authority, and yes, to hold those in power accountable. Trevor's voice grew stronger as he spoke, his frustration giving way to passion. When someone makes bold claims or takes actions that affect millions of lives, they should expect scrutiny. That's not just my opinion. That's democracy at work. And if we can't laugh at ourselves or point out absurdities without being labeled the problem, then where does that leave us? As Trevor continued, he broke down Musk's argument piece by piece. He acknowledged that satire could sometimes miss the mark, but argued that dismissing it entirely was dangerous. Think about history, he said. Some of the greatest movements for change were sparked by humor and ridicule. Satire challenges the status quo. It forces us to think critically. If we silence that, we're left with blind acceptance, and that benefits no one. The audience erupted in applause, clearly moved by Trevor's words. Social media lit up almost instantly. Clips of his monologue spread across platforms, sparking conversations worldwide. People weighed in with their opinions, some agreeing, with Trevor and others siding with Musk. Debates raged online, with hashtags like Chang Comedy Matters and Satire V's Power trending globally. Comedians, journalists, and even politicians chimed in, turning the incident into a cultural moment. Meanwhile, Elon Musk wasted no time responding. True to form, he took to Twitter, or X as it was now called, to elaborate on his stance. In a series of tweets, he doubled down on his criticism of satire. Unchecked comedy, he wrote, isn't harmless entertainment. It shapes perceptions and influences behavior, often without accountability. He argued that while free speech was important, it came with responsibility, and that responsibility included considering the consequences of your words. Predictably, Musk's tweets poured fuel on the fire. Supporters praised him for speaking out against what they saw as reckless mockery. Critics accused him of trying to stifle free expression. Memes mocking both men flooded social media, ranging from lighthearted jabs to biting commentary. Late night, hosts couldn't resist poking fun at the feud, ensuring it remained front-page news for days. Backstage after the show, Trevor reflected on the whirlwind of reactions. Part of him felt vindicated. He'd stood up for his craft and sparked a meaningful conversation. But another part of him couldn't help wondering if things had gone too far. Was this really about satire, or was it something deeper? After all, Musk wasn't just any public figure. He represented innovation, ambition, and a vision for humanity's future. Did his critique stem from genuine concern, or was it simply ego-driven? That night, Trevor sat alone in his apartment, scrolling through endless threads of comments and articles. Some praised his courage, others dismissed him as defensive. One comment, though, caught his eye. It read, "Maybe both sides have valid points. Can't we find common ground?" Trevor stared at the screen, mulling over the idea. Could there be a middle ground between holding power accountable and avoiding harm? Or was conflict inevitable when ideals clashed? The following day, Trevor decided to dedicate an entire episode of The Daily Show to exploring these questions. He invited experts, fellow comedians, and even critics of satire to join him in a panel discussion. The goal wasn't to pick sides, but to dig deeper into the role of humor in society. As the guests debated, Trevor listened carefully, occasionally interjecting with insights drawn from his own experience. One guest, a professor of media studies, pointed out that satire had always been a double-edged sword. It can inspire change, but it can also alienate or misinform, she explained. Another panelist, a stand-up comedian, argued that humor was inherently subjective. What's funny to one person might offend another. That doesn't mean we stop making jokes, it means we keep refining our approach. By the end of the episode, Trevor summarized the key takeaways. This isn't about winning or losing, he said. It's about understanding each other better. We live in a world where power dynamics are constantly shifting, and finding ways to navigate that is crucial. Humor will always be part of the equation, but so is listening. Maybe the real challenge is learning how to do both. As the credits rolled, Trevor felt a sense of closure. The feud with Musk hadn't disappeared overnight, but it had evolved into something more constructive. Through open dialogue, he'd managed to turn a tense confrontation into an opportunity for reflection. And though the debate about comedy and influence was far from over, one thing was clear. The conversation mattered. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the remaining parts. The buzz around Trevor Noah's response to Elon Musk only grew louder in the days that followed. People couldn't stop talking about it. Late-night hosts, morning talk shows, and even daytime TV anchors were dissecting every angle of the feud. It wasn't just entertainment anymore. It had become a cultural moment. And while Trevor had done his best to address the issue thoughtfully on The Daily Show, he knew this was far from over. Elon Musk, for his part, seemed determined to keep the conversation alive. Every few hours another tweet would appear on his feed, each one adding fuel to the fire. Some were pointed critiques of satire, while others were thinly veiled jabs at Trevor himself. One particularly inflammatory post read, "If comedians want to be taken seriously, maybe they should act like journalists instead of clowns." The comment instantly went viral, sparking outrage among fans of comedy everywhere. Trevor saw the tweet while scrolling through his phone during a break at work. At first, he rolled his eyes, muttering under his breath, "Really? Clowns?" But then something clicked. Instead of getting angry, Trevor smiled, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. He realized that Musk's inability to let things go was playing right into his hands. After all, there's nothing funnier than someone taking themselves too seriously. That night, Trevor returned to the stage with renewed energy. The audience greeted him with thunderous applause, sensing that tonight's show was going to be special. Without wasting a second, Trevor launched into a fiery opening monologue. "So, apparently," he began, leaning casually against his desk, "I'm not a comedian, I'm a clown now. Well, if the red nose fits." He paused dramatically as the crowd erupted in laughter. "Honestly, I think Elon might be onto something. Maybe I am a clown. Except unlike actual clowns, my job isn't to make kids laugh at birthday parties. It's to make adults question their choices." The room roared with approval. Trevor leaned further into the joke, delivering line after line with razor-sharp timing. "You know what's funny? If you Google clown, you get pictures of guys in colorful suits holding balloons. But if you Google billionaire, you get, well, mostly Elon." The audience howled, loving every bit of it. Trevor wasn't holding back. He was using humor to diffuse the tension, reclaiming the narrative in his own way. But Trevor didn't stop at jokes. Midway through the monologue, he shifted gears, addressing the deeper implications of Musk's comments. "Look, here's the thing," he said, his tone softening slightly. "Elon is right about one thing. Words matter. They shape how we see the world. But so does context. When a billionaire tells me my jokes are dangerous, I can't help but wonder, dangerous to whom? To the status quo? To people who don't want to be questioned? Because if that's the case, then guilty as charged." His words resonated deeply with viewers. Many felt that Trevor had struck a perfect balance, acknowledging the validity of Musk's concerns while standing firm on the importance of free expression. Social media exploded once again, with fans praising Trevor for turning the tables, without stooping to pettiness. Clips of his monologue spread like wildfire, racking up millions of views within hours. Meanwhile, Elon Musk continued to dominate headlines. His tweets became increasingly polarizing, drawing both admiration and criticism. Some supporters applauded him for challenging societal norms, while detractors accused him of being out of touch. A growing number of voices called for moderation, urging both men to find common ground. One particularly poignant comment read, "Two brilliant minds battling over ideas shouldn't end in insults. Can't we focus on solutions instead of egos?" Behind the scenes, Trevor grappled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, he relished the opportunity to defend his craft and spark meaningful conversations. On the other hand, he couldn't ignore the toll the feud was taking. Friends noticed he was more stressed than usual, often staying up late to read articles or respond to messages. Even his mom called him during one of his rare quiet moments, reminding him, "Son, don't let anyone dim your light. You're doing good work." Trevor appreciated her wisdom, but couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation had touched a nerve. Why did Musk feel so threatened by satire? Was it because he genuinely believed humor could harm society, or was it something else entirely? These questions lingered in Trevor's mind as he prepared for the next episode of The Daily Show. Determined to dig deeper, Trevor decided to shift the focus of the show. Instead of solely addressing the feud, he invited a diverse group of guests to explore broader themes related to power, influence, and accountability. Among them was a tech ethicist who specialized in the impact of social media, a political cartoonist known for pushing boundaries, and a psychologist who studied human behavior in high-pressure situations. As the panel discussion unfolded, fascinating insights emerged. The tech ethicist argued that figures like Musk wielded immense power, not just through their companies but through their ability to shape public discourse. "When someone with billions of followers speaks," she explained, "their words carry weight. That's why scrutiny is essential. Satire plays a critical role in keeping those voices in check." The political cartoonist chimed in, sharing stories of backlash he'd faced for his work. "People always accuse us of going too far," he said with a wry smile. "But history shows that progress often starts with discomfort. If we're not challenging the powerful, then what's the point?" Finally, the psychologist offered a unique perspective. "Conflict arises when values collide," she said. "For Elon, innovation and efficiency might be top priorities. For Trevor, truth-telling and accountability take center stage. Neither is inherently wrong. They're just different lenses through which to view the world. Bridging that gap requires empathy." By the end of the episode, Trevor felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about him versus Musk anymore. It was about understanding the complexities of modern society. As he wrapped up the show, he addressed the audience directly. "We live in a messy, complicated world," he said. "And sometimes, the only way to make sense of it is to laugh, or argue, or do both. What matters most is that we keep talking. Because silence, that's where problems grow." The audience erupted in applause, many nodding in agreement. Backstage, Trevor exhaled deeply, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He didn't have all the answers, and neither did Musk. But perhaps that was the point. In a world full of uncertainty, the search for understanding was its own kind of victory. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the remaining parts. The fallout from Trevor Noah's latest episode of The Daily Show was impossible to ignore. People were talking about it everywhere, on social media, at dinner tables, in coffee shops, and even in classrooms. The combination of sharp humor and thoughtful commentary had struck a chord with audiences worldwide. While some praised Trevor for his ability to blend entertainment with meaningful discussion, others argued that he was still missing the bigger picture Elon Musk was trying to highlight. Elon Musk predictably wasn't backing down either. In fact, if anything, he seemed more emboldened than ever. His Twitter feed became a battleground of ideas, with each new post sparking fresh debates. One particularly provocative tweet read, "Satire is fine when it targets corruption or injustice. But when it mocks innovation and ambition, it stifles progress. Is that really what we want?" Once again, the internet exploded. Supporters rallied behind him, applauding his defense of bold thinking, while critics accused him of deflecting criticism by framing himself as a champion of progress. Trevor saw the tweet while sipping coffee backstage before taping the next episode of The Daily Show. At first, he chuckled, shaking his head at the irony. Mock's innovation? Really? He muttered to himself. Then, something occurred to him. A realization that shifted his perspective slightly. Maybe this whole feud wasn't just about satire versus power. Maybe it was also about two fundamentally different worldviews colliding. That night, Trevor approached the stage with a mix of determination and curiosity. He greeted the audience warmly, but instead of diving straight into jokes, he paused to reflect. "You know," he began, leaning forward on his desk. "When someone like Elon Musk says satire stifles progress, I have to stop and think. Because here's the thing. Progress doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because people push boundaries, ask tough questions, and challenge the status quo." He paused, letting his words sink in. And yes, sometimes that means mocking bad ideas or pointing out hypocrisy. But does that mean we're against progress? No, we're actually rooting for it. Real progress comes from accountability. If you can't handle being questioned or laughed at, you might not be ready for the real world. The audience erupted in applause, clearly moved by Trevor's point. Social media lit up almost instantly, with fans praising him for reframing the debate. Clips of the monologue went viral, racking up millions of views within hours. Even some of Elon's supporters admitted that Trevor had made a compelling case. But Trevor wasn't done yet. As the show progressed, he introduced a segment titled Progress versus Accountability. Using clips, graphics, and interviews, he explored how these two concepts often intersected and sometimes clashed in modern society. For example, he highlighted cases where innovators faced public scrutiny for risky decisions, such as tech companies rolling out untested products or corporations prioritizing profits over safety. Accountability isn't the enemy of progress, Trevor emphasized. It's the partner that keeps it honest. Elon Musk responded later that evening, naturally choosing Twitter as his platform. Trevor claims accountability and progress go hand in hand, he wrote. But history shows otherwise. Progress requires risk-taking, and risk-takers are rarely popular. Ask Galileo. Ask Tesla. Ask anyone who dared to dream big. The tweet quickly gained traction, reigniting the debate. Some agreed with Musk, arguing that visionaries often faced ridicule before proving their critics wrong. Others countered that accountability didn't mean shutting down innovation. It meant ensuring it served the greater good. Meanwhile, Trevor couldn't help but notice how deeply personal this entire exchange had become, for both of them. Sure, they were debating abstract concepts like satire and progress, but underneath it all lay raw emotions: pride, ego, fear, and perhaps even a desire for validation. It dawned on him that neither of them was entirely right or entirely wrong. They were simply approaching the same issues from different angles. This realization inspired Trevor to take a bold step. Instead of continuing the back and forth online, he decided to address Musk directly during the next episode of The Daily Show. "Elon," he said, looking straight into the camera, "I get it. You've built incredible things. You've changed industries, pushed limits, and inspired millions. And yeah, maybe comedians like me don't always understand the sacrifices you've made along the way. But here's the thing. Questioning authority isn't personal. It's necessary." He paused, his tone softening slightly. "If your ideas are strong enough to change the world, then they should also be strong enough to withstand scrutiny, even jokes. Satire isn't about tearing people down. It's about holding everyone accountable, including ourselves. And trust me, no one gets roasted harder than comedians." Trevor ended the segment with a surprising twist. "Here's my challenge to you, Elon," he continued. "Instead of seeing satire as an attack, why not embrace it? Invite a comedian onto your next podcast or live stream. Let them poke fun at you. Heck, join in on the jokes. You might find that laughter can build bridges, not walls. After all, if we can laugh together, maybe we can solve problems together too." The audience erupted in cheers, clearly impressed by Trevor's olive branch. Social media buzzed with reactions, many calling it a classy move and a game changer. Some skeptics dismissed it as a PR stunt, but others genuinely hoped Musk would accept the invitation. Even late-night hosts joked about the possibility of a joint appearance, imagining absurd scenarios where Trevor and Elon traded barbs while discussing space travel and electric cars. For Elon Musk, the ball was now in his court. Would he respond to Trevor's challenge or ignore it altogether? Fans eagerly awaited his next move, knowing full well that whatever he did would dominate headlines. Meanwhile, Trevor returned to his usual routine, hosting episodes filled with humor and insight, occasionally referencing the feud but never dwelling on it too much. Behind the scenes, however, Trevor found himself reflecting on the experience. This confrontation had forced him to think critically about his role as a comedian and commentator. Was he just making people laugh, or was he contributing to something bigger? Could humor truly bridge divides, or was it destined to provoke conflict? One evening, after wrapping up another successful show, Trevor sat alone in his dressing room, scrolling through messages from viewers. Many thanked him for standing up for free speech and satire, while others shared stories of how his work had inspired them to question authority in their own lives. A particular message caught his eye. "Thank you for reminding us that laughter isn't just entertainment, it's a tool for change." Trevor smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Whether or not Elon accepted his challenge, one thing was clear. This feud had sparked important conversations. It had reminded people of the power of humor, the importance of accountability, and the value of open dialogue. And in a world often divided by fear and uncertainty, those lessons mattered more than ever. As he turned off the lights and headed home, Trevor couldn't help but feel hopeful. Maybe the real victory wasn't winning the argument. It was finding ways to connect, even in the midst of disagreement. Because in the end, humanity thrived not on perfection, but on the messy, beautiful process of learning from each other. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the remaining parts. The days following Trevor Noah's olive branch felt like a strange calm before the storm. The internet buzzed with anticipation, waiting to see how Elon Musk would respond to Trevor's challenge. Would he rise to the occasion and embrace the idea of humor as a bridge? Or would he dig his heels in further, doubling down on his critique of satire? Meanwhile, Trevor went about his routine, hosting The Daily Show with his usual charm, though there was an undeniable sense of curiosity lingering beneath the surface. Elon Musk finally broke his silence, not with a direct reply to Trevor, but with a cryptic tweet that read, "Sometimes the best way to understand something is to experience it yourself." At first glance, it seemed unrelated to the ongoing feud. But within minutes, eagle-eyed fans noticed something unusual. Musk had followed up the tweet by liking several posts from popular comedians who had commented on the situation. Was this a subtle nod to Trevor's invitation, or just another one of Musk's enigmatic moves? Trevor caught wind of the tweet during rehearsals for the next episode. He chuckled when he saw it, leaning back in his chair and shaking his head. "Well, I guess that's as close to a maybe as we're gonna get," he joked with the writers. Despite Musk's lack of a clear response, Trevor decided to keep the momentum going. If anything, this whole saga had reminded him of the importance of persistence, not just in comedy but in life itself. That night, Trevor took the stage with his trademark energy, opening the show with a playful jab at Musk's latest tweet. "So apparently Elon thinks the best way to understand something is to experience it yourself," he said, raising an eyebrow. "I'm starting to think he's planning to become a stand-up comedian. Can you imagine? A billionaire walking into a club, dropping mic after mic, literally and figuratively." The audience roared with laughter, loving the visual. Trevor leaned into the joke, delivering punchline after punchline. He'd probably start his set by saying, "You think electric cars are expensive? Try funding a space program." More laughter erupted, and for a moment it felt like the tension between the two men was melting away through shared humor. But Trevor wasn't content to let the issue fade into the background entirely. Midway through the monologue, he shifted gears, addressing the deeper meaning behind Musk's cryptic tweet. "You know, he might actually be onto something," Trevor admitted, his tone turning reflective. "Experiencing things firsthand really does change your perspective. That's why empathy matters so much. It forces us to step into someone else's shoes, even if just for a moment. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. And maybe that's what this whole thing has been about. Two people coming from different worlds trying to make sense of each other. Elon sees satire as a threat to innovation, and I see it as a tool for accountability. But at the end of the day, we're both just humans trying to figure out how to move forward without losing sight of what matters. The audience listened intently, sensing that Trevor was reaching for something bigger than jokes or arguments. Social media lit up once again, with fans praising him for keeping the conversation grounded in humanity. Clips of the Monk League spread rapidly, drawing comments from all corners of the globe. One viewer wrote, "This is exactly why I love Trevor. He doesn't just entertain, he makes you think." Meanwhile, Elon Musk continued to play his cards close to the chest. Over the next few days, he posted sporadic updates on Twitter, teasing new projects and sharing memes that seemed vaguely related to the feud. Some interpreted these posts as signs that he was warming up to Trevor's challenge, while others dismissed them as distractions. Either way, the suspense kept everyone hooked. Backstage after the show, Trevor found himself reflecting on the power of storytelling. This entire ordeal had reminded him of something fundamental. Every person, no matter how powerful or influential, carries their own struggles and insecurities. Musk's resistance to satire likely stemmed from years of facing criticism and, perhaps even ridicule, for his bold ideas. Understanding that didn't mean excusing his behavior, but it did offer a glimpse into his motivations. Inspired by this realization, Trevor decided to dedicate an upcoming episode of The Daily Show to exploring the human side of innovation. He invited a panel of guests who had worked closely with visionaries like Musk, including engineers, entrepreneurs, and even former employees of major tech companies. The goal was simple: to shed light on the challenges and sacrifices that came with pushing boundaries. As the panel discussion unfolded, fascinating insights emerged. One guest, a former engineer, spoke candidly about the pressure to deliver results in high-stakes environments. "When you're working on cutting-edge technology, failure isn't an option," she explained. "Every decision feels like life or death. And yeah, sometimes that creates friction with outsiders who don't fully grasp the stakes." Another panelist, a startup founder, added, "Innovation requires taking risks that often look reckless from the outside. But here's the thing. Those risks don't exist in a vacuum. They impact real people, whether it's customers, relying on your product, or workers depending on your company for their livelihoods." Trevor nodded thoughtfully, weaving these perspectives into the conversation. "So what you're saying is progress isn't just about big ideas. It's about balancing those ideas with responsibility. It's about remembering that behind every invention, every breakthrough are human beings whose lives are affected." By the end of the episode, Trevor felt a renewed sense of clarity. This feud with Musk wasn't just about satire versus power, or even comedy versus ambition. It was about finding common ground in a world increasingly divided by ideology and ego. As he wrapped up the show, he addressed the audience directly. "We spend so much time pointing fingers, arguing over who's right and who's wrong. But maybe the real question isn't who's winning, it's whether we're moving forward together." The audience erupted in applause, many nodding in agreement. Backstage, Trevor exhaled deeply, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He didn't have all the answers, and neither did Musk. But perhaps that was the beauty of it. In a world full of uncertainty, the search for understanding was its own kind of victory. Later that evening, Trevor received a surprising notification on his phone. Elon Musk had retweeted one of the clips from the episode, adding a brief comment. "Thought-provoking. Discussion. Progress needs accountability but also vision." The tweet quickly gained traction, with fans speculating that this might signal a thawing of tensions between the two men. Trevor smiled as he read the message, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe this whole saga hadn't been about proving who was right after all. Maybe it had been about learning to see the world and each other through fresh eyes. And if laughter could help build bridges along the way, then perhaps it truly was the universal language it claimed to be. Let me know. if you'd like me to continue expanding the remaining parts. The unexpected retweet from Elon Musk sent ripples through the internet. Fans of both Trevor Noah and Musk scrambled to decode its meaning. Was it a sign of reconciliation? A subtle acknowledgement that Trevor had made some valid points? Or simply, another cryptic move in Musk's ever-unpredictable playbook? Whatever the case, the tweet added a new layer of intrigue to the ongoing saga. Trevor saw the retweet while scrolling through his phone during breakfast the next morning. At first, he chuckled, amused by the irony of being praised by someone who had initially criticized him so harshly. But as he read Musk's comment again, progress needs accountability but also vision, something clicked. It wasn't just a compliment, it was an olive branch, however small. And Trevor knew exactly how to respond. That evening, as the lights dimmed and the Daily Show audience erupted into applause, Trevor walked onto the stage with a mischievous grin. Well, he began, leaning casually against his desk. Looks like Elon Musk finally got the memo. Progress and accountability aren't enemies, they're teammates. The crowd cheered, loving the playful tone. He went on to address the retweet directly, using humor to diffuse any lingering tension. You know, when I woke up this morning and saw that Elon had retweeted one of my clips, I thought, finally, validation from the man himself. Then I realized he probably just wanted to promote his next rocket launch. The audience laughed, but Trevor quickly shifted to a more serious note. All jokes aside, though, I think what Elon said is spot on. Progress without accountability is reckless, but accountability without vision is pointless. The trick is finding the balance. His words resonated deeply with viewers. Social media buzzed with reactions, many praising Trevor for handling the situation with grace and wit. Clips of the monologue spread across platforms, sparking discussions about collaboration over conflict. Some fans even started speculating about a potential joint appearance between Trevor and Musk, imagining scenarios where they could hash out their differences live on air. Meanwhile, Elon Musk seemed to be enjoying the renewed attention. Over the next few days, he posted a series of tweets that hinted at openness to Trevor's earlier challenge. One particularly intriguing post read, "Maybe comedians and innovators aren't so different after all. Both push boundaries, just in different ways." The comment drew mixed reactions, with supporters applauding his willingness to engage and skeptics accusing him of backtracking. Backstage after the show, Trevor found himself reflecting on the evolving dynamic between them. This feud had started as a clash of egos, but it had since transformed into something far more nuanced. It wasn't just about satire versus ambition anymore. It was about understanding each other's perspectives and finding common ground. For the first time, Trevor allowed himself to imagine what might happen if they actually sat down together. Inspired by this thought, Trevor decided to take things a step further. During the next episode of The Daily Show, he announced a bold idea: a live debate, not to settle scores, but to explore the intersection of humor, innovation, and responsibility. "Imagine it," he said, addressing the camera with a twinkle. In his eye, two worlds colliding: comedy meets tech, laughter meets logic, satire meets space travel. Who wouldn't want to watch that? The audience erupted in cheers, clearly excited by the prospect. Social media exploded almost instantly, with hashtags like Noah vs. Musk and comedy meets innovation trending globally. Late-night hosts joked about the potential fireworks, while news outlets speculated about the logistics of such an event. Even Musk himself couldn't resist chiming in, tweeting, "Sounds fun, let's do it." With Musk officially on board, the wheels were set in motion. Producers from both sides began coordinating details, turning what had once been a bitter feud into a highly anticipated spectacle. The format was simple yet ambitious: a 90-minute live discussion moderated by a neutral third party, featuring segments on satire, innovation, and the role of public discourse in shaping the future. There would be no winners or losers, only insights and laughs. As preparations got underway, Trevor threw himself into the process with characteristic enthusiasm. He spent hours researching Musk's projects, brushing up on everything from neural implants to Mars colonization. He also reached out to fellow comedians and experts for advice, determined to strike the perfect balance between humor and substance. "This isn't just about me or Elon," he told his team during rehearsals. "It's about starting a conversation that matters." On the day of the event, anticipation reached fever pitch. Fans packed into the venue, buzzing with excitement. Cameras rolled as Trevor and Musk took their seats on stage, exchanging polite nods before diving into the discussion. From the very first question, it was clear that this wouldn't be your typical interview. Sparks flew, not in anger but in the form of sharp wit and thoughtful exchanges. At one point, Trevor quipped, "So Elon, let's say we send a comedian to Mars. What's the first rule they'd need to follow?" Musk grinned, playing along. "Don't make fun of the gravity. It's already low enough." The audience roared with laughter, breaking the ice and setting the tone for the rest of the evening. But it wasn't all jokes. As the conversation deepened, both men tackled tough topics, from the ethics of artificial intelligence to the responsibility of public figures in shaping societal values. Musk admitted that satire could serve as a mirror, forcing innovators to confront uncomfortable truths. Trevor acknowledged that pushing boundaries sometimes required risk-taking, and yes, even blind faith in big ideas. By the end of the session, something remarkable had happened. Two men who had started as adversaries had forged a tentative connection, united by their shared commitment to challenging norms and inspiring change. As they shook hands on stage, the audience gave them a standing ovation, recognizing that this moment transcended entertainment. It was a testament to the power of dialogue. Later that night, Trevor reflected on the experience during a quiet moment backstage. This journey had taught him something profound. Disagreements don't have to divide us. They can bring us closer together, if we're willing to listen. Whether or not he and Musk remained friends didn't matter. What mattered was the bridge they had built, a reminder that progress thrives not on certainty but on curiosity. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the remaining parts. The live debate between Trevor Noah and Elon Musk had been a roller coaster of emotions, laughter, tension, insight, and even moments of genuine connection. By the time it ended, both men were visibly drained but satisfied. As they walked off, stage together, exchanging polite goodbyes, neither could have predicted how deeply this experience would impact them, or the world watching. For Trevor, the aftermath was a whirlwind of media appearances, interviews, and fan reactions. Clips from the debate dominated social media for days, with hashtags like Trevor Noah and Musk and Progress, through dialogue trending globally. Fans praised the event not just as entertainment, but as a model for resolving conflicts in an increasingly polarized society. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. "This is what happens when two brilliant minds focus on understanding instead of winning." But behind the scenes, Trevor found himself reflecting on the deeper lessons of the evening. This wasn't just about comedy versus innovation or satire versus ambition. It was about something far more universal, the power of listening. For weeks, he and Musk had traded barbs online, each defending their corner with sharp words and sharper egos. Yet, when they finally sat down face to face, something shifted. They realized they weren't so different after all. Both were driven by a desire to push boundaries, challenge norms, and leave the world better than they found it. That realization stayed with Trevor long after the cameras stopped rolling. He began to see parallels between his own journey and Musk's. Comedians and innovators might operate in different arenas, but their goals often overlapped. Satire pushed people to question authority and think critically, while innovation inspired them to dream bigger and aim higher. In their own ways, both men sought to disrupt the status quo, but disruption without empathy could easily backfire. Inspired by these reflections, Trevor decided to dedicate an upcoming episode of The Daily Show to exploring the theme of collaboration over conflict. He invited a diverse panel of guests, including activists, entrepreneurs, and artists, to discuss how seemingly opposing forces could come together to create meaningful change. The goal wasn't to preach solutions, but to spark conversations. that resonated with everyday people. As the panel discussion unfolded, fascinating insights emerged. One guest, a community organizer, shared a story about bringing rival groups together to address local issues. "It's not about agreeing on everything," she explained. "It's about finding common ground and working toward shared goals. Sometimes that means setting aside your ego and focusing on what truly matters." Another panelist, a tech entrepreneur, echoed this sentiment. "Innovation thrives on diversity of thought," he said. "When you surround yourself with people who challenge your ideas, you grow. It's uncomfortable at times, but that discomfort is where progress happens." Trevor nodded thoughtfully, weaving these perspectives into the conversation. "So, what you're saying is disagreement isn't the enemy. It's part of the process. Whether it's comedy, tech, or activism, the key is learning how to channel that tension into something productive." By the end of the episode, Trevor felt a renewed sense of purpose. This feud with Musk had taught him that every clash carried the potential for growth, if approached with openness and humility. As he wrapped up the show, he addressed the audience directly. "We live in a world that feels more divided than ever. But here's the thing. Division doesn't have to define us. Every argument, every disagreement is an opportunity to learn, to step outside our bubble and see things from someone else's perspective. And maybe, just maybe, laughter can help us get there." The audience erupted in applause, many nodding in agreement. Social media lit up once again, with fans praising Trevor for turning a personal feud into a universal lesson. Clips of the episode spread rapidly, drawing comments from viewers around the globe. One particularly moving message read, "Thank you for reminding us that humanity thrives not on perfection, but on connection." Meanwhile, Elon Musk seemed to be taking the experience to heart as well. In the days following the debate, he posted several tweets acknowledging the value of dialogue. "Sometimes the best way to solve problems is to talk them out, not shout them down," he wrote. Another tweet read, "Big thanks to Trevor for pushing me to think differently." Growth comes from discomfort. While some dismissed these posts as performative, others saw them as evidence of genuine reflection. Backstage after the show, Trevor received a surprising notification on his phone. Musk had sent him a private message through Twitter, inviting him to visit one of SpaceX's facilities. "Thought you might enjoy seeing firsthand what we're working on," the message read. "Who knows, maybe you'll find inspiration for your next joke." Trevor smiled, touched by the gesture. It wasn't just an invitation, it was a sign of respect. A few weeks later, Trevor found himself standing inside a massive hangar at SpaceX headquarters, surrounded by engineers and prototypes of rockets destined for Mars. Musk greeted him warmly, giving him a brief tour of the facility. As they walked, Trevor couldn't help but marvel at the scale of Musk's vision. "You know," he said, shaking his head in amazement, "most people dream of building houses. You dream of building planets." Musk chuckled, clearly enjoying the compliment. "Well, someone has to think big," he replied, "otherwise we'd still be living in caves." The comment drew laughter from everyone present, breaking the ice and reinforcing the bond they had forged during the debate. Later that day, Trevor joined Musk and his team for lunch, engaging in lively discussions about everything from space, travel to climate change. At one point, Trevor joked, "If I ever decide to pivot from comedy to rocket science, will you give me a job?" Musk grinned, replying, "Only if you promise to make fun of me at least once a week." By the end of the visit, Trevor felt a profound sense of gratitude. What had started as a bitter feud had blossomed into an unlikely friendship, one rooted in mutual respect and a shared commitment to making the world a better place. As he drove away from the facility, he reflected on how far they had come. Two men from vastly different worlds had managed to bridge the gap, not because they agreed on everything, but because they chose to focus on what united them rather than what divided them. That night, Trevor returned home and sat down to write his opening monologue for the next episode of The Daily Show. As he typed, he realized that this entire journey had reinforced something he already knew deep down. Humor was more than just jokes. It was a tool for connection, a catalyst for change, and a reminder of our shared humanity. And perhaps in a world full of noise and chaos, that was the most powerful message of all. Let me know if you'd like me to continue expanding the final part. The ripple effects of Trevor Noah's unlikely friendship with Elon Musk continued to spread long after their live debate and SpaceX visit. What began as a fiery clash had transformed into a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most polarized disagreements could lead to understanding, collaboration, and growth. For Trevor, this journey wasn't just about mending fences. It was about proving that humanity thrived when people chose curiosity over judgment, empathy over ego. Back on The Daily Show, Trevor used his platform to reflect on the lessons he'd learned from the entire experience. During one particularly memorable episode, he opened with a heartfelt monologue that resonated deeply with viewers. "You know," he said, leaning forward on his desk, "life has a funny way of teaching us things we didn't know we needed to learn. A few weeks ago, I thought I was locked in a battle with someone who didn't understand my world. Turns out, maybe I didn't fully understand his either." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Here's the thing. None of us have all the answers. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go. And sometimes that means stepping outside your comfort zone, whether it's visiting a rocket factory or sitting down for a tough conversation with someone you don't see eye to eye with." The audience listened intently, many nodding along as Trevor spoke from the heart. "But here's what I've realized," he added with a smile. "Disagreements aren't the enemy. They're opportunities to grow, to connect, and yes, to laugh. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, and humans are messy, complicated, and beautiful creatures." Social media exploded once again, with fans praising Trevor for turning a personal feud into a universal lesson. Clips of the monologue went viral, drawing comments from people around the globe. One viewer wrote, "This is why I love Trevor. He doesn't just entertain, he inspires." Another added, "If two people as different as Trevor and Elon can find common ground, then there's hope for the rest of us." Meanwhile, Elon Musk seemed to embrace the spirit of collaboration more openly than ever before. In interviews and tweets, he began advocating for the importance of dialogue and diverse perspectives. "The future belongs to those who listen," he posted one evening, sparking widespread discussion. Critics noted that his actions still occasionally clashed with his words, but supporters argued that change, even incremental, was worth celebrating. Trevor noticed these shifts too, and decided to keep pushing the conversation forward. On an upcoming episode of The Daily Show, he introduced a new segment called Bridging Worlds, where he brought together individuals with vastly different backgrounds and beliefs to tackle pressing global issues. From climate activists and oil executives to tech innovators and privacy advocates, the guests represented opposing sides of contentious debates. Yet, time and again, they discovered surprising areas of agreement simply by listening to each other. One episode featured a heated discussion between renewable energy experts and fossil fuel industry leaders. At first, tensions ran high, with both sides trading accusations and statistics. But as Trevor guided the conversation, something remarkable happened. Slowly but surely, they began focusing less on blame and more on solutions. By the end of the show, they were brainstorming ideas for transitioning to cleaner energy without leaving workers behind. The audience erupted in applause, moved by the power of compromise. These segments became some of the most talked about moments on The Daily Show, earning praise not just for their entertainment value but for their real-world impact. Viewers started sharing stories of how the episodes inspired them to engage in difficult conversations in their own lives, whether with family members, co-workers, or neighbors. It was clear that Trevor had tapped into something profound, the universal desire for connection, even amid disagreement. Behind the scenes, Trevor couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. This journey had challenged him in ways he never expected, forcing him to confront his biases and assumptions. He realized that while humor was his weapon of choice, it was also a bridge, a way to lower defenses and open hearts. And though he still loved poking fun at powerful figures, including Elon, He now approached those jokes with a deeper appreciation for the complexities behind the personas. Even Elon Musk seemed to soften in subtle ways. During a rare appearance on a late-night talk show, he surprised everyone by joking about the feud himself. "Yeah, I accuse comedians of being dangerous," he said with a grin. "Turns out they're not so bad, as long as they don't aim their jokes at me." The audience laughed, clearly charmed by his self-awareness. Later, he credited Trevor with helping him see the value of satire, not as an attack, but as a mirror reflecting society's truths. As months passed, Trevor and Elon maintained a quiet but genuine friendship. They didn't agree on everything. In fact, they often disagreed passionately, but that no longer mattered. What mattered was their shared commitment to progress, accountability, and humanity. Occasionally, Trevor would tease Elon during the Daily Show monologues, knowing full well that Musk would respond with a witty tweet. These playful exchanges delighted fans, serving as a reminder that conflict could coexist with camaraderie. In the final episode of the season, Trevor took a moment to reflect on everything that had transpired since the infamous feud began. Standing alone on stage, bathed in soft lighting, he addressed the audience with sincerity. "When this whole thing started, I thought it was about winning an argument, but looking back I realize it was never about that. It was about learning from each other, from our mistakes, and from the world around us." He smiled, his voice tinged with gratitude. "So thank you to Elon for challenging me to think differently, to my team for supporting me every step of the way, and to all of you for reminding me why this job matters. Because at its core, comedy isn't just about making people laugh, it's about making them feel less alone." The audience erupted, in applause, many rising to their feet in a standing ovation. As Trevor waved goodbye and walked off stage, he felt a deep sense of peace. This chapter of his life had been unpredictable, messy, and transformative, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. Years later, when people looked back on the feud between Trevor Noah and Elon Musk, they wouldn't remember the insults or arguments. Instead, they'd remember the laughter, the lessons, and the bridges built along the way. And perhaps in a world desperate for unity, that was the greatest victory of all.